Lost Nation Airport might not be quite such a bad conversation to have. Because organically, as the pie grows, instead of trying to carve the same small thing up, all of a sudden it might make some sense. And the idea of this thing being closed down and turned into warehouses, not likely. So the sad reality is we're going to have to find a way to make this work. And it has to be in a way that it's within the budget and within the means of our community to sustain. Because we have to do this on a go-forward basis. And that's the one thing that our county commissioners historically have not done, is make decisions that can be handled on a go-forward basis. They deal with the instant, right now, the crisis du jour, if you will. So I hope that answers your question, sir. Thank you.
Anyone else have a question? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, the question is, what is your position on redistricting?
In regards to what, sir?
Redistribution of wealth.
Oh, got it, yeah. Wow, there's a hanging fastball over the plate. Well, let's see. I wonder how the, I'm going to use two non-Lake County communities. I wonder how the people in Gates Mills would feel if their funds were being redirected and redistributed to East Cleveland in the interest of fairness and equitability. No. Folks, it doesn't apply. This concept of redistribution of wealth is little more than class warfare. It's a mechanism that some people unscrupulously use to pit the producers and the takers against one another. This is the kind of mechanism that's used, quite frankly, to create almost a class of people that are dependent upon the government. It takes away a person's self-worth. It takes away a person's ability to become a producer, and it removes all incentive. Now, there's a number of studies over years that show the lowest common denominator. But when you give somebody the opportunity to rise up and aspire to be more than what they are, more often than not, and I will say this as Americans, I'm proud to say we're a bit of a different breed, we will take that opportunity, because very often, we do not shrink from a challenge. We rise up to that challenge. So the concept of redistribution of wealth, no. All it does is establish an underclass, and in many cases, a perpetual underclass.
Okay, we have another question up here.
You mentioned about in Madison how you engaged many more people in the input to the government. And you also mentioned about holding our representatives responsible. How would you go about to make the county government more open and more accessible and more transparent and more engaged with the citizens?
Well, it starts with the fundamentals. Let me ask you a question. I'm going to do a quick poll here. How many of you folks have ever been to a Lake County Commissioners meeting? Excellent. Now, folks who have been to a Lake County Commissioners meeting, have you ever seen the agenda before you got to that Commissioners meeting? No. I don't see a single hand. I see a lot of shaking heads. Now, those of you who have seen the agenda, all you're getting a little synopsis, which really doesn't necessarily reflect what it is that's being acted on. Is that a true statement?
Yes.
So let's take a look at this. What if we had regularly scheduled meetings with published agendas in context that actually talk about what it is we're making decisions on that affect your lives? What a concept. Open, honest. And that's where this turnaround issues come from. This is what Dave Vivek and I have fought for in our own communities. This is the kind of cloak of, shall we say, I don't want to use the word conspiracy because it's a little strong, but you have this culture of no. No, we're not going to tell you this. No, we're not going to give you that information. And if you do not ask the right question, you do not get the answers. So you have a situation of, well, it's all public record, but it's only public record if you ask the right question. There's an old saying, we call it garbage in, garbage out. Some of you perhaps heard that. If you do not ask the right question, you do not get a useful answer. So what I would do is very simply, keep it open, keep it honest, and communicate. It's just that simple. It works. Thank you, sir.
We have time for one more question. And it looks like we're going to go into John's 2-minute closing remarks.
Thank you, Chuck. I would like to say hello to Bob Patterson, who took the time to be here. He's running for Lake County Treasurer. And I saw quite a smile come up on his face when I started talking about the Treasurer's office and how they are attached at the hip to this county land bank. Bob gets it. He understands how important it is to be working together. And our community needs to work together. And I'm going to say that's something that I believe the Tea Party represents. Like-minded people working together, sharing information. You know, I'm going to just come out and say it. I'm going to kind of pick on Chuck here. You know, one of the things that he's talked about is being open about the Tea Party. You know, after he described the signs and whatnot, it wasn't too hard to figure out, oh my gosh, I've been driving past this house for quite some time. Wearing your passions on your sleeve, together we can make a difference. I cannot overemphasize, we're all in this. It's not lost. We're not going to find perfect candidates, but what we can do is find candidates that are willing to learn, willing to grow, willing to adapt to the changes in time and circumstances. One of the things that we do collectively is we hold ourselves to a very high standard. And we do admonish our own when we see something we do not like. But we also have to be compassionate enough to say when somebody's responsible and says, you know, I made a mistake. And they man up, if I can use that term, and they fix it, that's something that's commendable. And that's something that in many cases, our side of the aisle does do. We man up, we fix things. If we make a resolution or we vote on something, we take an action that's not exactly helping out, we fix it. And that's what sets us apart. And that's something we need to be proud of, and that's something we need to go out and tell people and talk to people about. And, you know, if you want to talk about, for example, Agenda 21, carve off components. It's a pretty big issue. But incrementalism, it's worked against us. We can use incrementalism for us. Share with people. Bring them up to speed on exactly what this means. Show them in local examples of how this is affecting us. And give people something that they can actually look at, understand, and independently verify. That's something that really sets all of us apart on our side. We make sure that what we say, what we do, can be verified. The other side, they just make claims and you say it 1,000 times, it must be the truth. Well, I can't overemphasize it. Be true to yourselves, folks, and we will win. Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to thank both Dave Fiebig and John Hammercheck for taking the time this evening to be with us, to answer our questions. And if you have additional questions after the meeting is concluded, I believe both John and Dave will be in the back, or if you capture them up here, they'll be right here. So I'm sure they'd like to talk with you further. Pardon me?
Taking yards.
Yes. I do wish that tonight we had had the opportunity to hear their opponents. They chose not to participate tonight, and I think that that was a bad decision on their parts. So, but on the other hand, you did get to hear what these two gentlemen stand for, and a little bit about their candidacies tonight. If you like what you heard,